Okay, we're going to start on Federalist number 11. It has to do with commerce and trade, but I wanted to show you something. You probably cannot see the name of the countries, which is good. That's kind of what I want. I wanted to show you that in 1600s, 17th century, and maybe even 16th century, but mostly 17th and 18th century, what the trade routes were like, okay? This is before the American Revolution and after the American Revolution, okay? England is right here, okay? This is England, Britain. They dominated the seas at this time, okay? 18th century. But let's look in 1600s. You still had some competition between Spain, Portugal, Dutch, and England. And here's pretty much what happened. Unfortunately, in the dark, long chapter of human history and slavery. It's good that you know this because you cannot understand the American Constitution, why it was written the way it was, without knowing a little bit about slavery and how that was part of the big picture between all these empires, monarchical empires, the Spanish, British, Portuguese, and to a certain extent Dutch. Okay, here's what would happen. The British would take iron and silver and, let's say, later on, Indian textiles, beads, stuff like jewelry, go down here. Not just Indians, I'm talking Spain, Portugal. They would kind of do the same thing. They would come down here and exchange those for enslaved people. And those enslaved people would come all the way over here to the Caribbean islands over here, where a lot of plantations were established for sugar cane and things of that sort. So this was horrendous. In this area, all those islands that belonged to the British, or British ruled over, colonized, Spanish, French, these are all, a lot of them mostly sugar plantations. And some of those slaves would end up right here in America. So this is the trade route. This is how the trade worked. The English would take iron, silver, beads, textile down here, pick up the slaves. They would bring them here, put them on their plantations to raise sugar, and then go over here also in the English colonies. And then there would be a little trade over here, okay? The colonists would send grain, butter, meat, because they had cattle, they would raise grains. They would send them here, and from here they would get sugar, coffee, and molasses. And they would sometimes turn that sugar and molasses into rum. So that would be the trade right there. And then from the colonies up here in Americas, at least North America, to Britain, they would send tobacco, rice, fish, timber, tar. Tar would be used for shipbuilding, stuff like that. Timber, mostly the same thing, because this was just, they had so much over here. So they would send rice, tobacco, fish, timber, and tar. And in return, a lot of manufactured goods would come from Britain to the colonies. Stuff like clothing, tools, axes, muskets, furniture, things of that sort. Okay? When the American Revolution started, the British blocked all the trades that the colonies had, or the new states had, with all these plantations right here in the Caribbean. They said, okay, we're going to punish you. We'll pass navigation acts, which would control your trade through the seas, through the Navy. That's why they would call it Navigation Act. The laws that would have to do with trade at the sea. We will close all the ports to you. Colonies that have rebelled against us, we won't let you sell anything to them. We won't let you get anything from them. And this went on even after the revolution, because the British were saying, some of the people in the new states owe us money. You have to give us money, then we'll let you trade with these people. And this was irritating the new states, and this is one of the things that was happening then. So when I get ready to, when I read Federalist number 11, you'll kind of see why he's talking about the stuff that he does. He says, if another reason that we need to have a union is that we establish a navy over here, okay? And if we have a navy, we can trade using our own ships. We don't have to get ships from the British ships or French or Dutch or Spanish ships to carry our cargo for us. And another thing is, if we have to have a strong navy, so that in case the British decide to come and block our ports, we can answer them, we can fight them. We have to have our navy so that we don't have to go through a middle person, a second person, to carry our cargo to trade. Somebody else is going to make the money. Why should not we make the money? So he's like, if we are not a union, if we don't unite, they will take advantage of our weakness. We won't have a navy. They will separate us. They will make us weak. They will trade with us on their own terms, to what's advantageous to them and not to us. They can exclude us from any of these islands, trade with any of those islands at will if they want to. And we can never say, no, you're not going to come and trade with us at our ports, because we'll be too weak to force them to see that. And another thing you'll see in this Federalist, this is almost the seeds of what came to be the Monroe Doctrine. And the United States stuck to it for almost 2 centuries. And Monroe Doctrine is named after President Monroe. Okay, you'll know about it later on. It got to a point where Americans said, we're strong enough that all you Europeans stay away from all this continent. This is our backyard, and we are not going to let you meddle with it. So this is kind of the starting point where Hamilton says, if we stay strong, we will stop Europeans from playing in our backyard, telling us where we can go, telling us where we cannot go. And another point is, if they start having troubles here, let's say if Britain and Spain start having trouble here, if we have a navy, we decide to side with one of them, take the British side or take the Spanish side, we can be a major power player. So it says we can actually decide the outcome of geostrategy. We could be a very, very strategic power, even if we are not real powerful, but as long as we have enough ships to take one of these empires' side in a battle, then tilt the balance or let the other side have the advantage, then we can be a power play broker. We can say, yes, we are somebody. So this is what Federalist number 11 relates to, just commerce and why it's important for America to unite, and why it's important for America in the Union to build a navy. Remember in Federalist number 8, we said one of the great things that happened in the United States was by not having to have a standing army, a big army, freedom was not suppressed, because I told you Federalist number 8 is important, and especially relevant to what we're doing in studying the Federalists and studying federalism, is that we want to get to a point where most of the countries of the world, or all the countries of the world, stop spending so much money on armament and having a big military, so that we can better advance the human cause. So here he's talking about a navy to give the United States enough leverage, enough say to be important outcome of things. So this is where he's going with that. So keep that in mind. And notice over here, I don't know if you can read it or not, but I've written that the two things that we will be doing, James Madison did this when he went to the Constitutional Convention. He studied the confederations. See, I've written confederations, ancient and modern. And line 2, vices of the political system of the United States. He studied the shortcoming, the vices, the bad things about the 13 states for the previous 11 years, from 1776 to 1787. We want to do the same thing. We want to study the strong points about American federalism and the weak points about American federalism. Strong points about Canadian federalism, the weak points over there. With India, with European Union, see what they do, and then study the other federal systems, Australian, German. And with that experience, hopefully in 3 generations or so, to start planning and writing the blueprints of a union. Thank you.